city to city, country to country, on the world's local television network. It's his Channel Live.
Now, I brought the first Bible I ever really took serious notes in.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring that. It's a pew Bible. And
right.
these are just, and so you can see there's not much to it.
It's got the tabs
But I
there,
put
so you
tabs
can
in it
find the
myself
book,
because
yeah.
I wanted to find the different books.
Right.
And I started to kind of, just really kind of note through it. And what I did was I went through the Gospels, and I did what, at the time I was, our department was doing a lot of, would do a lot of interviews, and they would use me a lot of times to do these interviews. And so they would send me to schools and to different classes, and I had taken courses in forensic statement analysis. This is an idea where you sit down with the suspect and you say, hey, do me a favor and just write down on that piece of paper before we do the interview, would you write down everything you did yesterday, say from the time you got up to the time you went to bed?
Right.
And you would have him write down the entire narrative of his day.
The day, okay.
And you'd be amazed at what you can glean from the narrative that he's written down.
Aha.
The way he compresses time, the way he uses pronouns, the way he uses certain language, you can tell a lot about whether he's in the game or not, if he's guilty or not.
Really?
And you can even tell sometimes, based on what he does, where in his day this activity took place.
Where he committed the
because
crime.
he's either compressing time or stretching time. He's doing one of the two.
Interesting.
So I thought, let me just take a look at,
look at
the
this.
Gospels.
Okay.
And I started with the Gospel of Mark.
Okay.
And I went through the Gospels, and I just looked at them from a forensic statement analysis perspective. And so if you look at it now looking back, I did all 4 Gospels.
Right.
And I just kind of tore them up with different colors of pen, that when you do forensic statement analysis, you use different colors to
Right,
find different
okay.
things.
Fascinating.
So, and one of the things I did was when I looked at Mark specifically, I wanted to see, the claim that Mark is a scribe for Peter.
Right.
Well, is this really true? Is there something about the Gospel of Mark that might give us clues that Peter's telling the story?
Oh, I
And so,
appreciate that.
but if you think about it, in which Gospel, when Jesus is walking on water,
Yeah.
does Peter get out of the boat?
Mark.
Well, no, it's not in Mark. And the reason why it's not in Mark, it's kind of embarrassing. Why
Yes,
is it? It's
no.
omitted from Mark.
Mark.
You would think it would be in there.
Exactly.
And so what you see is circumstances where the scriptures themselves were giving me little hints as to who might be penning this.
Ah. Okay.
And why? So you parallel accounts. I'm looking at the other eyewitness testimonies, and I'm saying, gosh, this one here seems like all of Peter's embarrassing stuff. It's not in Mark. It's in some other version of the Gospels. Now, does that mean necessarily that Peter penned Mark, or no? But it's just a piece of circumstantial evidence.
Aha.
And when we're doing cold cases, that's what we're doing. Is we
Okay.
are building cases on circumstantial evidence. We don't always have good forensic material evidence.
Let's say that again. So you're building a cold case like here. There's no witnesses to interview. You've got
That's
just
right.
forensic evidence to piece
Yeah, as a
together.
matter of fact, there's a great number of similarities, if you think about it, between an ancient event that occurs in the past, for which there are no living eyewitnesses. You have an eyewitness account.
Right.
There is not much forensic evidence, you might argue.
Right.
There's obviously some archaeological
Right.
evidence. And so now compare this to a cold case.
Okay.
It happened 30 years ago. I don't have
Aha.
any living eyewitnesses. I may not have any good hard physical evidence. So I've got to build a case circumstantially.
Right.
So here I am,
So you're
building the
putting
case
circumstantially.
circumstantially.
So walk me through it. So what did you start seeing then as you
Well,
started reading?
I started to see that the gospel accounts looked suspiciously like eyewitness statements. All the little things that I would typically see if I interviewed 4 eyewitnesses
I
to any
see.
account, I would
Interesting.
see here. First of all, I'm always suspicious. You
Right.
always, when you
Good.
stop and you do a case and you get to a crime scene and someone tells you, oh, there's 4 witnesses
Right.
here in the crime scene, the first thing you're going to say is, well, separate all of them, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't let them stand
No
together.
collusion.
Because if you let them stand together, it's just human nature to
Exactly.
compare stories. And then when you
Exactly.
interview them, you get
They're
the
gonna
limited
sound-
perspective of
exactly.
one person
Yeah,
instead
they
of the
sound alike,
depth
yeah.
of 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I can tell you, when you interview these people individually, you might wonder to yourself, gosh, do these folks even see the same event?
Yeah.
It seems like they've watched a different event entirely. It's kind of the old game you do
exactly.
where you're talking to some group of people,
Tell-
run
yeah.
somebody in, and he does something in front of the crowd, and then he runs
Runs
out.
out, and
And then you
everybody
ask
ri-
people to
would write
describe
down.
him. Oh, my gosh. You get all kinds of different
course.
descriptions. But you will see in the most powerful events of an eyewitness testimony, maybe the moment that the robbery is taking place, when the gun is pulled out and now these 4 witnesses are staring down the barrel of the gun, you will see certain events begin to line up.
Aha.
Because this is an event that's hard to forget. This is
Exactly.
a part of the narrative
Aha.
that is very hard to forget. And so they're passionately involved, and they remember it. And so I started to see this here. You see details that you get different perspectives. Whatever's important to each eyewitness, that's the thing that's being brought forth. But then when it gets down to the brass tacks of a very important event, you see things line up. And when you see omissions, you get to look back and you go, well, gosh, it's interesting. This omission, and if Peter is the source of this, maybe he omitted that for a reason.
Yeah,
you know?
Why would that? Yeah, why would he mention
Peter looks
walking
silly
on
enough in the Gospels as it is.
He doesn't
not
need to
going to
add
look
to
silly
it.
in
Exactly.
his own. So he's very clear to be careful not to do that.
Yeah.